Hey, Margie here. Welcome to the Wake Up, Pray Up, Boss Up podcast, the show that helps Christian moms prioritize their physical and mental health so they can boldly step into God's calling. I'm your host, Margie Ruiz. Hey, Margie here. Welcome back to another episode of the Wake Up, Pray Up, Boss Up podcast. Today, we're talking about something that makes life much easier when you get it right. Your values. Because here's the deal. If you don't stand for something, you, my friend, will fall for anything. Some credit that line to Alexander Hamilton. If you don't know who you are and what you stand for, you'll get pulled in 1,000 directions, which is a problem right now with the algorithms of social media and all that good stuff. That's a whole nother podcast. But in a world where it feels like values have been completely thrown out the window, it's more important than ever to be clear on what you believe, what matters to you, and what you're going to build your life on. So here's where I am right now. I've shared with you, I'm a brand new empty nester. I just became an empty nester in August. Family has always been one of my very top values. And guess what? Just because my kids aren't here full time anymore, that doesn't change. But it does feel different. Now, I'm in a season of learning how to honor that deep value of family while also honoring another one that God has planted in me, the calling to help women like you step into your calling. Sometimes those values feel like they clash, right? So do I spend more time with the kids or do I pour into this mission? It's not always easy. But when I stop and check in, I realize both are still true. Both matter. And the way I live them out has to shift with the season I'm in. Proverbs 4:23 says, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Your values are how you guard your heart. They're your filter. They give you permission to say, if this doesn't line up with my values, it's a hard no. And listen, hard no has become one of my favorite phrases. No guilt, no back and forth, just nope. A friend of mine shared that he took it a step further. He says, if it's not a hell yeah, it's a no. Here's what I've learned. Fulfillment doesn't come from checking off a million goals. It comes from living aligned with your values. Now, let me be clear. Your core values, they don't usually change. They're part of who God made you to be. But the way you live them out in different times of your life and different seasons might look different. For example, like I said, family might always be a top value. But with little kids at home, that meant bedtime stories and carpools and being present for those things. As an empty nester, it might mean weekend trips, FaceTime calls, things like that, or phone calls. Health. Health might always be a top value. In one season, it might look like rest and recovery. In another, it's training for a race or hitting the gym 5 times a week. Faith doesn't change, but God may call you to express it differently in different areas of your life. For example, sometimes you're being called to just deep, quiet prayer and listening. Other times, you may be called to lead a freaking movement. And you have to be ready. Do you see the difference? The value stays steady, but the expression shifts. That's why it's so important to revisit your values regularly. I recommend at least twice a year, maybe even quarterly, to ask, am I living aligned with what matters most in this season? Inside my coaching membership, we take this even further. I help women not just define their values, but actually build rhythms and choices around them so they're living in alignment daily. If you've ever felt pulled in different directions, this can be life-changing. And if you've been listening since the beginning, you might remember episode 3, I called it, What Do You Stand For? In that episode, I talked about how values can sometimes feel like they conflict. Like when you're craving quiet time, but at the same time, you don't want to miss out on a social engagement. You know, that's tugging at you. But that's why it's so important to be clear on them. What do you need today? I also introduced the idea of towards values and away values. And I want to remind you of that today because it's very, very, very powerful. Towards values are the things you want more of, like peace, health, joy, adventure, right? Away values are things you want less of, less stress, less conflict, less chaos, or that being stuck. Both of these shape your choices, but if you're only being driven by away values, you'll live your life in reaction mode, always running from stress or chaos, but never feeling fulfilled. Fulfillment comes when you start living towards your values you truly, truly desire. So here are today's 3 clicks for the power of values. Number 1, wake up. Notice where you're drained. If you're constantly second-guessing yourself or your life feels complicated, chances are you're out of alignment with your values. I'll give you a challenge. This week, ask yourself, where am I saying yes to stuff that doesn't line up with my values? Don't be afraid to say no. Number 2, pray up. Ask God to show you what matters. Sometimes what we think is important isn't really the thing God wants front and center. Pray, Lord, show me the values you want guiding my life right now. And step number 3, boss up. Make one value-based decision. Don't wait for some giant life choice, okay? Start small. Pick one decision this week, a yes or a no, that you'll make through a lens of your values. See how much lighter that feels. And hey, if you're ready to go deeper, I've got something free for you. It's called the Reclaim Your Values. What do you stand for? A simple worksheet to help you clarify your top 5 values and start aligning your life with what matters most to you. This isn't about making life harder. It's about making life actually simpler. When you know your values, you know your yes and you know your no. Grab your free copy at margieruiz.com or click the link in the show notes. So friend, remember this. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for everything. But when you know your values and you actually live aligned with them, life gets clearer, decisions get easier, and you get to experience real fulfillment. Until next time, wake up, pray up, and boss up every day. God bless. Bye! Thank you so much for listening. Hey, if you enjoyed the episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, shout it from the rooftops, leave a rating and a review, all the things. And to catch the latest from me, you can follow me on Facebook and Instagram at margie.gp6 or go to my website at margieruiz.com and make sure to sign up for my weekly newsletter. Thanks again. I'll see you next time. Bye.